What's up, y'all? Welcome back. College football week 2 is finally here. I am that dude, and I can't wait to jump into this video. I missed out on college football week 1, and I'm so sorry. I mentioned this in my last video. I was in Mexico, but I'm here for week 2, and I'm gonna make up for it. Don't worry.
He loves me that much. He missed the first week.
Yeah, you gonna get in the video? All right. So Brianna, her beautiful self, planned a trip on the first weekend of college football. So let's look past that because I'm not mad about it. I enjoyed it. Anyway, so moving forward, going forward. Thursdays are NFL videos. Fridays are my college football videos, so you can be ready for that. I want you to interact with me. Please drop a like on this video and subscribe to the channel. We're going to be doing these all season long. I'm also going to have fantasy videos coming out for sure. But let's get some picks right and let's talk some football. So a couple of things that I want to start off in this video talking about is games of the week that we're all thinking about, all wanting to talk about. Texas A&M and Clemson. Let's not really look past all the other ones. Let's not waste your time. Texas A&M, Clemson. It's going to be a good game in my opinion. Last year was a crazy game. Overtime after overtime. I thought that it was one of the best games of the year, if not the best game of the year. Texas A&M easily could have won that game in my mind. Clemson, going back to Clemson this year, that's going to be a different story. The line in that game is 17.5, which I think is pretty steep. I'm staying away from these two games that I mentioned right here real quickly. I think that's crazy spread. Are they going to cover that? I personally do not think so. I think Texas A&M, Jimbo Fisher, I think he's going to have something to say about that line. I think it's just a little bit too much. I wouldn't be surprised if Clemson came out and just totally dominated at home against A&M. But it's something to watch. I'm definitely looking forward to it. SEC versus ACC. There's always a little extra going on. This is a big game for Clemson. This is one of their tougher games of the year. And then with Texas A&M, they have a really brutal schedule this whole year. So every game is big for them, obviously, but this game, you have to get up. If you don't get up for the #1 team in the country, who are you really going to get up for? Moving on to the next game, Texas and LSU. It's at Texas. This is interesting to me. Texas is carrying and getting 6.5 points, which I think is crazy. If that line gets up to 7, it's going to be really sketchy. There's going to be a lot of people really thinking hard about that line. LSU, there's a lot of talk about their offense now. Joe Burrow, Heisman candidate. LSU could make it to the playoffs. Let's calm down a little bit. This is the same team last year that we thought were good and really can compete. Thought they may have a chance of beating Alabama. They come in and get just blasted. Don't even score a point at home in Baton Rouge. So I don't see them going and just dominating Texas. I wouldn't be surprised if they did. But Tom Herman, that Texas team as an underdog, that's what I like, especially at home. At night game, they're going to have to get up for this game. Herman, he is good as an underdog, as a head coach, so it's going to be a fun game to watch. Last year, we remember Sam Ehlinger. You may not, but Sam Ehlinger, after they won the game against Georgia, we're back. That's what he said. So we'll see if Texas is truly back. This is the game that's going to really kind of tell the story for them going forward. I do believe in Sam Ehlinger. I think he's pretty good, but this is going to be one of the better defenses that he's played in his career, Georgia being the other defense. Another game that I want to talk about is Nebraska and Colorado. I think that's going to be a fun game to watch, maybe a game that isn't really getting much hype, but Nebraska, we'll see what goes on. Colorado, Nebraska. At Colorado, and I think Nebraska's going to have a lot of fans. Colorado's getting about 4 points right now at home. Again, a home team getting points, It's always something that I like to see. I'm not saying that these are my picks, but these are going to be fun games to watch. Nebraska, they have a lot of people talking about them. I personally need to see them prove it before I start, kind of believing in what they are doing. The last game I want to talk about that's just a sketchy line, Stanford and USC at USC. This line is, Daniels from USC, he just got injured. He'll be out for the rest of the year. So they lost their starting quarterback, and they're still the favorite in this game. So that's something that I'm looking at. It's a line that I don't want to touch. If I had to pick, I would pick Stanford. I think Stanford wins this game. So that's something I want to watch. And then a underdog pick of the week that I think could win outright would be BYU beating Tennessee. I think Tennessee, what they did last week was a disgrace to the SEC. I don't even know where they can go from there. It's one of those you just want to crawl in a hole and the season to be over. But that was week 1. So BYU, I think they're okay. I'm not going to say BYU is good at all. I just don't think Tennessee has any hope this year. I hope they prove me wrong. I hope they do okay and win, but that's the one that I'm looking at where BYU could just straight up go in there and beat Tennessee. Some of my best plays of this week. I missed college football week 1, so I'm going to give you a few extra. Win or lose, these are my picks, so I want you guys to keep up with them. I'll keep up with them throughout the season. And these are my official picks. Let me go ahead and say that. These other games, definitely games to watch, something I'm looking forward to talking about with you guys. But my first pick, going in order basically throughout the day, Mississippi State, 16.5 against Southern Miss. I think Southern Miss is fine. I don't think that Southern Miss is going to be able to compete with Mississippi State. Mississippi State is coming off of a game where they played Louisiana Lafayette, 38-28 is what they won. I think they kind of let them get back in the game at the end. They really were in control of that game for the most part. And then that line came back to 10 at the end of the game. I think that's why we see this spread somewhat lower. I don't know. Mississippi State, minus 16.5. I'm going to keep it short and sweet with that. The next pick that I have is Northern Illinois at Utah. I like Utah minus the 22.5 points. I think Utah is a good team. I think that quarterback has a lot to prove this year, as well as Utah has a lot to prove this year. Utah beat BYU 30-22. I think that BYU may be better than Northern Illinois, and they beat them by 18 points. That's not what I essentially look at, but I do think that this is a bigger game for BYU. That's not essentially what I look at when I'm looking at the point spread, when I'm looking at who's playing who in matchups. They've only played one game this year. I'm looking at simply the team. Illinois State is who Northern Illinois played. They beat them 24-10. Not that impressive. What I'm going off of right now, I think Utah minus 22 is a good play. My next pick, Buffalo at Penn State. Penn State, if you did not see that game, they ran up the score, to say the least. 79-0 in that game. That is a blowout, to say the least. And I think that they do the same thing against Buffalo. I don't think it's close. And with what that tells me, they do not care about leaving in a couple starters. They want to blow out everyone they can. Teams like this, you have to think about this, and you have to keep this in mind when looking at these bigger spreads with these teams. A team like Penn State has to blow out their opponent to get noticed, a lot like Central Florida. I'm not saying Central Florida and Penn State are anywhere near the same realm of category, but that's what I'm saying. You have your top dollars, then you have your Penn States, you have your Michigan States, and teams like that. This Penn State team, Penn State and Wisconsin, those are two teams that you kind of can put in the same category this year. They have to blow out their opponents to get recognized, and I think that's what they're going to try to do against Buffalo. So 29.5 points, Penn State. I like that. Moving on, Arkansas at Ole Miss. Two teams that played absolutely terrible in the first game. I don't think either team is that good. Let me go ahead and say that. I just think that Ole Miss is a little better, or is a little bit not as bad. Whatever you want to say, that's what I think about Ole Miss. 6.5 at home. I think they win by a touchdown at least. Arkansas, I mean, like I mentioned, they played awful at home. Against, let me see, I can't even remember, against Portland State. 20-13, you should be able to beat Portland State by more than 7 points. Memphis beat Ole Miss 15-10. I think Memphis's offense is pretty good. Memphis defense is pretty bad. That's the thing that scares me about Ole Miss. They could only score 10 points against that poor Memphis defense. With all that being said, that defense kind of tells me that I can believe in them just a little bit, especially against the Arkansas team that I don't think is very good. So give me Arkansas minus 6.5. I'll lay those points. My next pick, Miami minus 6.5. I think they beat North Carolina by more than a touchdown. I think Miami probably played one of their worst games that they will play all year long. North Carolina probably got a little lucky in their last game, beating South Carolina. I don't think South Carolina's good, first of all. I think we all kind of thought South Carolina was better than what they are. North Carolina beat them 24-20. So good job for North Carolina. ACC beat them. But I think that this Miami team played a pretty good Florida team. They also played a week earlier than everyone else. So they kind of got that all behind them, had extra time to prepare for it, and that's something that I think that's going to help them in this game. Miami is going to beat North Carolina by more than a touchdown. Give me those 6.5 points. One of the last picks that I want to put down is California at Washington. Jacob Eason and Washington looked really good last weekend, and this is a team that if they win a couple more, let them get streaky or whatever, that's going to be a team that Oregon has to face, and it's going to be between Oregon, Utah, and Washington in that conference. I think that Washington blows out California. I could be totally wrong. This could be somewhat of a trap game. California played UC Davis last weekend, 27-13. Not that impressive. You should be able to beat UC Davis worse than that. While we watched Washington blow out their opponent, yes, they were not playing anyone. Eason was throwing against air, and I get that, but I do think that he looked good. And I think that this is a team that will be competing down the stretch this year, and it's going to be a team that you can count on this weekend at minus 13.5 points. With all that being said, I will run over my picks one more time really quickly. That way you all know, and that way we can lock in what my actual picks are. Mississippi State, minus 16.5. Penn State, minus 29.5. Ole Miss, minus 6.5. Washington, minus 13.5. And Miami, minus 6.5. This is a strange weekend. Also in Utah, minus 22. This is a strange weekend while I'm picking all favorites. There will be weekends where I pick a lot of underdogs getting points. I love teams that are getting points. If I was going to be picking some teams getting some points this weekend, I like a team like Colorado getting 4 points at home. I like a team like Texas getting 6.5 to 7 points at home. Also BYU getting points. I think that's very good plays this weekend. I appreciate you guys watching the video. This is my college football week 2 preview. My picks, games to watch. Can't wait to see what happens. Saturday is coming, and I look forward to watching the games, and I hope you do too. Please make sure to follow me on Instagram and Twitter. That way we can talk or whatever. Subscribe to the channel. Drop a like. It's going to be a great football season. Can't wait to do it with you.